Welcome to podcast number 7. We are live from the Ripley house, not at the Paula's. If you haven't noticed, this is not the Paula's with the step. There was a wedding tonight in the basement of the Paula's. Go figure, a wedding on a Wednesday night at the Paula's. So here we are,
You gotta get married when you can. You better say I do before somebody change their mind.
Yep. And then my wife is not here. She's down the beach. So, we invaded the house, took over, and we're in our living room. And
I'll make sure I'm out before she gets back.
Make sure you're out. No doubt. So tonight we got a great show for everybody. We're sponsored again by Under Armour, Rich Hausler's Realtor, and DePaula's, which we're not at DePaula's. That's who our sponsors are. BTC is a coaches association that has numerous 85 members. Our job is to promote high school football and help kids get in college. So that's what we're all about today. So again, tonight we're going to start our show off talking about COVID-19 as usual.
We're going to talk about our special guest. I know he's back only for the second time.
Oh, our second time special guest is Jamie Willis because Big Reg is vacationing. Now he's doing something for the NFL. For those who don't know, Reggie was a offensive lineman in the NFL, so he's a defensive lineman, tackling people. So he's out doing a bunch of stuff with the NFL, taking care of business. But he said he was going to try to watch and call in and maybe text us and give us some information. So again, we got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about COVID-19. We're going to do our game of the week. We're going to have a bunch of interviews, and then an exciting thing we're going to talk about tonight is who's the best players on offense. So we're talking about quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, O-line, and wide receivers that we have seen in our lifetime. I'm 51 years old. How old are you?
43.
43. And how old are you?
I'm 51.
51. So
I'm the young buck on the crew.
Right. So we're going to bring in Joe DeBlasi, who's much older than us. He's been around for 30 years covering Baltimore Metro sports. He's going to chime in on who he thinks are the best. We're going to have Chuck Markowitz on tonight, ex-head coach at Arundel, knows everybody. He's coaching down at Spalding with Kyle Schmidt.
I don't think Chuck knows how to log into our podcast, but
right, but he's gonna call in. He's gonna call in and give us. And then we're gonna have Sean Murphy again from North Carolina. Was in Baltimore at Curley High School for almost
75 years.
Yeah, 75 years. He knows a lot of people. He's gonna chime in on his results, and then we're gonna wrap it up with Sheldon Sheeler,
who knows everything
about the state of Maryland, and we're gonna have his outlook. Our perspective is the Baltimore Metro area best players. He's going to cover the state players. So we're going to let him pick kids from PG County, Montgomery County. So we'll see what he says and compare it to ours to see if our kids up here are just as good as the kids down there.
Reggie just chimed in and said, how are we trying to replace him?
We're not Big Reg, we are not replacing you. Trust me, we can't replace you.
Hey, Big Reg, you just mad I'm sexier than you. That's all.
That's unbelievable. Can you imagine both of them in a thong bikini bathing suit on the beach?
No, but I'm not going to.
You're not even going to do that? Can you imagine that? Reg, I need you.
He said right here.
Reg, I'm taking you to the beach. All right, so again, let's talk COVID-19 again. So, guys, you've been watching the news. Of course, everybody knows that the numbers are supposedly spiking. Yesterday was the all-time most amount of people who tested positive.
In Maryland?
No, in the United States.
Oh.
They're already talking that if a certain presidential candidate gets elected, we're going to have lockdowns again as usual.
Who, Biden or Trump?
I said not our current president. So you could say who that guy is.
Biden ain't going to lock the country down.
You don't think he's going to lock the country down? We're going to move on because we're not going to talk politics here tonight. But again, we're probably going to get locked down. So covering our sports in Maryland. Again, hold on. Again, we're excited about the MIA was giving the equipment out. They're looking at playing on November 7th, week 1. Today it was announced that the Turkey Bowl will be played on Thanksgiving Day.
So how many games they playing? 5?
Anywhere from 6 to 7, I heard. So the Turkey Bowl is going to be played on Thanksgiving at Calvert Hall. Apparently, there was a coin toss between Loyola and Calvert Hall. This is what I'm reading, so I can't confirm or deny it. But again, they're going to have the Turkey Bowl. I'm anxious to see what they're going to do about the crowd at that game. People are going to want to see that football game. We talked about Garrett County, Allegheny County. Those guys are playing their schedule, getting ready to start. Baltimore County still in the whim. We haven't heard anything going on there. Baltimore City still in a holding pattern. But again, there's a little bit of shaking going on. Anne Arundel County, we talked about Bob Ehrlich had his rally at the Board of Education saying the kids in Anne Arundel County could play. They came back and said, hey, you guys can start practicing. So now teams are out there practicing. You're at Northeast this week. Is that correct? Or did you leave there and go somewhere else by now?
No, I haven't moved yet.
You haven't moved yet? You haven't moved yet. Okay. Northeast people, you still have them. So he's still plugging Northeast. We are Northeast is his slang. Northeast, right, exactly. So again, what we did, we invited Coach Nick Goodmalloy tonight on with us. He's the head coach at Annapolis High School, does great things down there, promotes the kids, has recruiting nights down there. One of the most instrumental coaches in Annapolis area. Nick, are you on the phone? Unmute yourself. Nick.
I am, yes, sir. Can you guys hear
Coach,
me all right?
what's happening? How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. We had practice tonight, so that's always good.
So fill us in.
Practice.
Practice, right. So you talked to me a couple days ago or yesterday, and you talked about you're excited to be out 4 days a week with your young kids and your older kids. Elwood here says he only goes out twice a week, so that's how good he thinks Northeast is. Do you play them?
4 days.
I heard he's going 6 days a week.
Nick, what's going on? What's the rules down there? What can you do and what can't you do? And fill us in on how you're doing.
So it's a good opportunity. We're allowed up to 50 student athletes in a group, and that group of 50 student athletes is allowed 2 practices a week. So, different schools, obviously there's different sizes and things like that. So we had about mid-70s total register, just like during the regular season, submit physicals, get parent permission forms, all that good stuff. And so we split them into 2 groups. We have most of the 9th and 10th graders together practicing on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we go Tuesdays and Thursdays with the older, more experienced players. So each group gets 2 days a week. Some schools probably have 3 groups, if they had over 100 kids sign up. But we're doing 2 groups a week right now. And no equipment as far as helmet or shoulder pads or anything like that, but we are allowed blocking dummies, hand shields, stuff like that. So we're able to get a lot of good technique work in, start to introduce some of the schemes offensively and defensively and so on. And the main thing is it's just great being back around the kids, after about 6 months being away, all the returning guys, it's great to see them again and be interacting with them out on the field, and also a great opportunity to meet all the new players, the incoming freshmen who we haven't had much interaction with yet, or some of the new, 10th graders, 11th graders that have decided to come out and play football, which is always great. So we've had 2 sessions with the younger guys, just finished that up this evening. We've had 1 so far with the older group, but it's been a lot of fun, if nothing else.
Awesome. A quick question, shouting out to Lawrence Smith in Dunbar. He was on last week. He said, man, Coach, what are the protocols going to be when we start playing? What are you guys doing down there before practice? You doing temp checks? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting, not to go off on a sidetrack, but, in Anne Arundel County right now, rec league football, youth football is going on. And, so if you go to some of those games, I think they do a good job as far as people wearing masks and those types of things. But for our high school practices, it's almost like the whole facility is on lockdown, other than the players, coaches, school personnel. So it's very strict as far as, sometimes when we practice, there might be people running around the track, community people, stuff like that. Now it's, everything is locked down. I'm kind of getting used to the check-in process. It's making the start practice a little bit late, which, coaches, we hate starting late, but we're getting used to it. Each student athlete comes up. There's a series of questions that they have to answer, similar to when you go into some establishments and businesses and things like that. We keep a very accurate attendance record so that if there are any, hopefully not, but any instances surrounding COVID-19, that we're able to easily contact trace. And that's a big point of emphasis too, is that once a kid is in one of those groups, those cohorts, whatever you want to call it, they can't switch. So if a kid misses practice on Monday, he can't then go with the Tuesday group. Mm-hmm. They've got to stay with their assigned groups. As far as masks, we ask that when they arrive and when they leave, they wear masks. And when they're practicing and doing drills, they don't have to have the masks on. But if we're taking a break, or if they're even waiting in line and things like that, which we try to not do too much waiting in line, but we ask that they have their masks on. But, so it's, and spread out. We don't bring it in, to do our breakdowns and things like that. We stay spread out. And then at the end of practice, all of the, equipment has to be sprayed down, sanitized, all that good stuff. So that's added an extra layer of responsibility for the coaches, at the end of practice, which is fine.
Awesome.
So all that stuff, and if any cases are reported, then we got to see what happens from there as far as the higher ups and the powers that be, how they want to handle that.
Right.
They have a whole
coach. You said you're not wearing helmets,
protocol.
right? It's just shorts and t-shirts.
Right. No helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, it's great to be out there. I do, we're going to do in Anne Arundel County, so we're doing all the fall sports right now.
Okay.
Are getting to practice 2 days a week. It'll just be a total of 8 practices per group. So for 4 weeks, twice a week, and then we're going to do the same thing with the spring sports, and then the winter sports.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with the winter season and things like that. So, we're getting these 4 weeks. It'll be, we always talk about football being different. I'm pretty sure when lacrosse is practicing, they'll be wearing their helmets and pads and stuff, which is great. I'm happy for them.
Really?
But it's always
shout out to the lacrosse community.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm happy for them. They get to play their sport, and that's fantastic. I think we all know football there's a lot you could do without full contact, and a lot that you could teach the kids, and that's great. So I'm happy for that. But we know it's also a lot more that you could do when you're in helmet and shoulder pads, and you can get a little bit higher level of contact and things. But it'd be hard to do a acclimatization period. We're only getting 2 practices a week, and we don't want to throw all those other safety protocols out the window.
Right.
Given the circumstance. So I totally get it. I kind of say it tongue in cheek, but it would be all the kids are like, "Are we getting equipment?" And no, guys, we're gonna focus on technique and staying safe and all that good stuff.
All right, Coach. Well, again, hey, thanks for jumping in on our COVID-19 update, because we knew Anne Arundel County was back. We appreciate everything you're doing, and again, keep putting them recruiting events on for kids to go to college. But be safe, Coach. If you need anything from us, give us a holler. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. Be safe, guys.
All right, Nick. Take care, bro.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. All right, so that's the end of COVID-19. Let's move right along. We got to cover. We got a lot. We're going to be on to probably about 8:15 tonight, because we got great topics.
8:15. Yeah, that's cutting into my wings.
You got a date? You got a date?
Yeah, a date with McGurk's. 50-cent wings tonight.
50-cent wings. Shout out to McGurk's. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so we got to cover Frederick High School. Frederick High School is our last county to cover, and some great football being played up there. Liganor, Oakdale, Frederick, all those guys. So, Jamie, you're going to go first. Who are we going to cover?
All right, we're going to cover tonight Oakdale versus Walkersville.
No, it's not versus. You're covering the team. Reggie, where are you?
Hey.
You're covering the team. So read about the team for me.
Yeah, so Oakdale, we got a couple returners. We got O-line, D-lineman Chase Hall, D1 kid. We got another O-lineman, Christian Rozier. We got another O-line, D-line, Logan Aurelio. They got a senior athlete, Garrett Witt, a junior wide receiver, DB, Cameron Donner, possibly D1 kid, and a senior running back, linebacker, returner, Andre Higgins. So, hey, they look like they're trying to reload and get back to where they've been.
So Oakdale last year was 5-2 in the league, 6-4 overall. Again, Kurt Stein does a great job. They've won some state championship up there with the quarterback they had. So again, they're looking good. Go ahead, you read.
So 2020, they would have been anchored by a big offensive line, the biggest in school history. They were returning 4 starters up front, a couple D1 guys. Last year, the team, they had 6 skilled position guys possibly in every game. They were taking majority of the snaps at quarterback this year, with Joe Pippins filling in at quarterback. Cameron Donner, he was a big-time threat at receiver, 6'2", 180, speedy. They also had the senior speedy guy, Orion, and Andrew coming back. On defense, they were very strong up front, rotating 4 or 5 guys at inside spots, led by Chase and Rozier. Mike Willer and Wyatt Turner looked to play DN spots. They also had a ton of speed in the secondary, so they're very excited.
What team is this?
This is Oakdale, man. Oakdale.
Oh.
All right, good job. Let's move on. Let's go. What do we got now? Yo, Bellwood, who you covering?
We got Frederick High School, coached by Kevin Peary. They finished 4-6 overall last year, 3-5 in the league. They returned one of their top receivers in the state, 6'3", 205, Xavier Johnson, who has an offer from Air Force, Tyler Hovey, offensive line, 6'5", 295. And then they have Trayvon Neal, a wide receiver, first team all-county. And, they're doing a good job. They graduated 20 seniors, so that's going to be kind of hard to rebuild that. But, you got some guys that's got offer from Air Force. You probably, looking to put something together. So excited to see what they'll do once we get rolling with football.
Awesome. All right, who we got next?
We got Walkersville. They had 5 returning offensive starters, 6 returners on defense. They feel like they have a strong team this year. They had many starters coming back, including their quarterback. They also returned a ton of bench guys. So they're really happy about the rotation that they were going to have, and they thought they were going to really have a good year.
Sounds good. All right, next up.
Brunswick, Coach Jeremiah Smith, who's a member of the BTC, always down here with the guys doing things in the community. They finished 4-6 last year. They're returning their quarterback, Wyland Herrick, who threw for over 1,000 yards just in 4 games. He was injured. I think he broke his hand playing lacrosse. He's going to lead that train. They have Terrence Jackson, the standout lineman in the program. And then Michael Saunders is a two-way starter and carries a lot of the weight on the offense and defensive side of the ball. So Coach Smith does a really good job with his programs, and I'm excited to see them move up in the Frederick County League as well.
Go ahead and hit the next one, Coach.
And then, we say the cream of the crop. I don't know if you on here, Coach Rick. Coach Rick Connor, Liganor, 12-2 overall, lost in the state championship or the game before the state championship?
I believe state championship.
I know they beat our colleague a couple of years ago at Milford.
Reg, sorry.
I apologize, Reg. I just had to put that one in there. I know how tough those state championship losses are. They have some good guys returning. Coach Connor does an amazing job with that program. They actually they beat Mervo in the playoffs, and then they went on and lost to Damascus. So Xander McClure, running back, 23 touchdowns last year, 2,300 yards rushing. Cole Mitchell, tight end, 6'5", 235, offers from Towson, Elon. Albany, plays basketball. And then they have offensive line Scott Hummel, committed to JMU, 6'4.5", 300 pounds. Great block in the run game because all they do is run the ball. Hey, Coach.
Reg says you pissed me off. You pissed me off. Go ahead, Reg. Talk to everybody on the telecast. Say hi, Reg. All right, go ahead. Keep going.
That's
Bye,
it.
Reg.
Liganor does a great job. Rick Connor does a great job with the program. And they're going to always continue to make noise in the 3A, and in Frederick County.
All right, so finishing up, TJ doesn't have football this year. Again, I was told.
They don't?
Yeah, they did not have football. The numbers were low. Tuscarora has a new football coach. Vince Ahern has left and went to Boonesboro.
And you talk about me always going somewhere. Vince just travel around the world too.
Yeah, Vince knows football. All right, Urbana didn't submit reports. Brad Wilson up in there. He's always got a great team.
I'm going to tell you, like Pilati told me the other day, they'll beat you.
And Middleton had submitted no report. So, again, that's a great conference up there. We're excited. Hopefully they'll get playing in the spring and they'll be ready to go. All right, moving right along. Games of the week for there. So we're going to go Oakdale versus Walkersville. Last year's score was 23 Oakdale, Walkersville 0. Who's going to win that game this year?
Oh, well, that list that Coach Jamie was just reading, I think Oakdale might get them this year again.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to go with the favorite there, Oakdale.
I'm going to go with Oakdale.
Look, Coach Markowitz is logged into our
All right,
podcast.
good deal. All right. Brunswick versus Middletown. That was Middletown 51. Brunswick was 12 last year. A little bit like a powerhouse versus a smaller
You had me
school,
just talking about Coach Smith, and now I got to go against
Well,
him.
I'm going to vote for him for upset. I'm going to say Jeremiah's going to win that game.
That's like a well-oiled train with
All right, and then our last high school game of the week is Long Reach versus Howard. Since we have the Long Reach head coach, who are we going with there?
Well, listen, I'm always a Long Reach Lightning, so as big as a rivalry it is, I'm always going for Long Reach.
I'm going to take the Lions by 20.
Right, I'm going to take the Lions by 30 because Ross Hanna said he'll break my legs if I don't pick him. So
well,
that's
Ross Hanna can't hear us right now. So
that's messed up. All right, so we got 2-1 there. All right, moving along right along. Pros. Let's go pros real quick. Pros. We're going Steelers versus Titans. Who's going to win that game?
Derrick
Steelers.
Henry is he?
Come on, chime in. Who we going?
I
take the Steelers to stay undefeated.
So do I. After I watched them
Cowboys versus Washington team.
The whatchamacallits,
Cowboys.
over the Cowboys.
Going with the Cowboys. Definitely with the Cowboys.
Both they're gonna lose. They both gonna luse.
Somebody.
They're gonna tie.
All right, and then the Big Ten football starts this week. Ohio State versus Nebraska.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Michigan versus Minnesota.
Minnesota with the upset.
Minnesota with the upset.
I got it.
And we got Maryland versus Northwest.
Northwestern by 30.
I'm going to go with
Maryland.
I'm going with Maryland too. We're going with two of them. All right, moving right along. Okay, so again, one of our exciting things tonight we're talking about is in our lifetime. We talked about, all decade teams, but we're going to say the best players we've seen. I'm 51. We talked about our ages in our lifetime. We're going to have a bunch of guests on here. Do you have Joe on the phone already? Joe, you there?
I am here.
All right.
I am here.
All right, Joe DeBlasi, a little background about Joe. Joe works for Varsity Sports Network. He's been around in the Baltimore metro area for about 30 years, seen a lot of football, was athletic director at Cardinal Gibbons, hired me as a football coach the first time. The guy's brilliant.
Coach, why did you do that?
He's
Right.
brilliant.
You should have been fired from that. Like,
So he knows
Yeah,
the game.
that was a genius move. A genius move.
All right, Coach, we got 5 minutes. Put the clock. He's on the clock. Give me your best three quarterbacks you've seen Coach, do you mind? Are you in the 60 range, 70 range, or the 50 range for your age?
Oh, I'd probably be all over the lot. But the first guy that came to my mind was Bobby Saberhouse
Okay.
at McDonough. That was in the 90s. And I remember Peter Athens at Spalding. There's two good quarterbacks at Spalding, Peter Athens and Zach Abey.
Right.
And you had Kurt Rawlings, was really, really good
I
at
asked
John
for three.
Carroll.
I didn't ask for four. I asked for three that you saw.
Well, there you got four.
All
Because the
right.
two at Spalding, Athens gave a lot of credit to, but I think he got hurt at Towson as he moved along.
All right, so they're all private kids because, again, let's reiterate, Joe covers mostly the private
Remember,
schools.
I did mostly
Right.
MIAA, which is the old MSA,
Right. All right.
all the way through.
All right, Joe. All right, that sounds good. What about running backs? Give me your best three running backs.
A running back, when I was digital sports before we became
Track of 5
Varsity
minutes.
Sports Network, without a doubt, Tavon Austin. He rushed for like 8,000 yards in his career at Dunbar.
Correct.
And now going back, wasn't covering sports, but top of the list, you got Vaughn Hebron up there, who was a Cardinal Gibbons guy who made it all the way up. I think he's still doing some stuff with your Big 33 group.
Correct.
Coach Ben, you
And
gotta
then
tune into the
I
podcast.
like, Chris, I don't know where you got
You want
Cyrus
him.
Jones.
It's
He
on
was
YouTube
pretty great.
channel.
And Terrence Garvin from Loyola Blakefield. And he made the NFL as well.
Right. Terrence.
That's three or
right,
four.
Terrence
And
is still
I
with
can't
CA.
leave Campanaro off the list from River Hill. I saw him in your
They said they
BTC
can't hear
championship.
YouTube channel.
I mean, BTC All-Star games a couple
Awesome,
times.
Coach. All right, wide receivers. Give me your best you saw there.
Wide receivers
Yeah, go
at
to Facebook.
St. Joe was J.J. Outlaw.
Mhm.
And he I think he had about 3,000 yards receiving in his career. And Scooter Monroe at John Carroll. And you can't leave off this Darius Haywood Bay in McDonough, and I think he was pretty good in the NFL as well. So that'd be my top three receivers.
What about tight ends?
Yeah. Tight end, I'm going to go way back on you because I was with him 2 years ago at a Maryland State Athletic Hall of Fame banquet. Gene Fugit, Cardinal Gibbons in the late 60s,
Wow.
Played
all
for the
pro.
Dallas Cowboys.
Played for
Played for
Redskins in Dallas,
Yep.
was on a Super Bowl team with Dallas and a Pro Bowl team in 77. Gene Fugit from Gibbons.
Awesome.
Now, that goes way back. Come one forward quickly. St. Joe, Robert Abamary. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Abamary. Victor's,
Yeah.
Victor's
He was
younger
great.
brother. Yep.
He was great, and so was Booker, Thomas Booker at Gilman.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a name that comes to everybody's mind, you had Henry Pogge at Gilman, who was pretty good.
Right.
And Stan White's son was really good at Gilman as well.
All right, Coach, what about O-lineman?
O-lineman, I didn't interview a whole lot of O-linemen as ever. They didn't get a whole lot of credit down through the line, down through the years.
Mm-hmm.
MIA wise, the late Jordan McNair, the sad story of him, he was really, really good at McDonough, and it's a shame that we lost him so early in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Gibbons had a really good player that went on to Maryland named Glenn McIntyre, and maybe one of the tops of my list would be Brian Gay at Gilman,
Yep.
who went to Penn State, and I think then was drafted in the NFL too.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, Joe, appreciate it. That's your 5 minutes of fame there. You got people in there. You're the man. Be
Thanks,
safe.
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, real quick. All right, so before we get the next guest on, the next guest will be Chuck Markowitz. So give me two of your quarterbacks. Who are you thinking?
Well, I played with one of them. I would say Willie McGirt. He ran for 1,000 and passed for 1,000 in our senior year. Led us all the way to the 4A. We only had 2 teams go back then.
Right.
And then I would probably have to go. He's probably not on nobody's list, but he was a fan favorite of mine. A guy named Anthony Miller, who played at Carver High School. And every week you opened up the paper, it was Miller rushes for 5, throws for 3 as Carver beat such and such. And he was fantastic. And he was that dual threat quarterback before. Willie was an option style quarterback, but like I said, he threw for 1,000 yards. And Mr. Wren did a really great job with Willie.
Awesome. What about you, Coach? Can you elaborate?
Well, not being a Maryland guy, so my limitation on some of the high school kids are more newer kids. I like the kid that played at Oakdale a couple years ago, that played for us in the Big 33.
Colin Salee.
Right.
Salee. And then
David Pindell played in Howard County.
I like David Pindell, who played at UConn, and he had a couple shot at the league. So those are 2 of my favorites.
That's just 2 top. So before we get to our next guest, so let me fill everybody in on the email chain we sent out to coaches and the Facebook chain that Elwood sent out. We had a lot of people write in. So quarterback situation, we had 29 different quarterbacks nominated, being the best people I've ever seen. 29. We narrowed it down to 10 by the most amount of votes. Number 1 vote getter was Willie McGirt. Willie McGirt, Patterson High School class of 95. Number 2 was Richard Johnson at Milford Mill. He had a lot of votes. Phenomenal. He's on the staff at Milford Mill. Number 3 was Bobby Sablehouse from McDonough, who Joe talked about. Then we had Andre Kramer, Northwest High School in Baltimore. Northwestern High School. Northwestern High School. Went to Tennessee. He received it. And next one was Ambrose Wooden from Gilman. Went to Notre Dame, was a defensive back, could have went in the NFL, but an injury. He decided to go into the business world, and I believe he works for Goldman & Sachs, making a lot of money, so he's a millionaire that way, and he's a brilliant kid. Then we had Billy Koch from Arundel. Coach Markowitz probably highlight him. He went to Kent State. He's a quarterback coach right now for University of Houston. Then we had Nick Elko from Arundel. Went to Dell State. He was 6'2", 210. After that was Zach Mills from Urbana. He was our BTC All-American All-Decade quarterback. Went to Penn State. Was a coach in high school at Haverford, and also played a little bit with I believe the Skins was there. Kurt Rawlings also made the top 10. Was an all-time quarterback at Yale University.
And a phenomenal lacrosse player.
He did not play lacrosse. I know that.
He didn't play it now?
Keith, text him in and tell him he didn't play lacrosse. He was a baseball player. He was a great baseball player for the Arena Club. But anyhow, Kurt will probably make the Hall of Fame eventually for Yale. He's beaten Harvard numerous times. Real deal. If anybody wants to see a great game, go on YouTube and watch this year's Yale and Harvard game. Best game I've ever seen.
Or you can watch the Pilates St. Paul.
And then rounded off, too, was Darius Jennings. Gilman. I went to UVA. He's in the NFL. He was with the Browns, Bears, Jets, Titans, and he's currently with the Chargers. So that rounds out our quarterbacks. Again, there was 29 different names, so there were some names we didn't name there. All right, Chuck, are you on the line? We have Chuck on the line?
I am.
The greatest of all time.
Chuck, he's bowing here at the table in my living room. He's bowing. So, how you doing, Chuck?
That's quite a list of guys you have there.
Yeah. All right. So
I remember them all.
Yeah. Well, we'll put you on the spot. Who are your top 3? You've been around a long time and you're a respected coach. Who's your top 3?
I think that those guys. I mean, Nick Rizzotti was a good quarterback. Earl Sewell was a good quarterback for us at North County. I mean, he didn't throw for a lot of yards, but he won state championship. Mm-hmm. Great leader. But Billy Koch could throw it. I mean, he could really. Downs meant nothing to us. We would throw the ball 4th and 10 and, get 15 yards. And it wasn't a big deal for us. Nick was a little bit different. I'll tell you a quick story about Nick. We were playing in with North County, finals of the region. It was some years ago. And we were down by a touch. We were down by about 4 points, I think. We had about 50 yards to go. There was a minute, some seconds left in the game, and Dave called a play. Dave was our offensive coordinator. He called a play, and Nick Elko looked at Brandon Johnson-Farrell. And I said to Dave, I don't think they're calling your play. because they just nodded at each other. He threw a fade to Brandon Johnson-Farrell. He caught the ball, and Quentin Jones is now the head coach at North County High School, was the guy that tried to tackle him. And he was basically backpedaling about 15 yards and knocked his hand off and backpedaled into the end zone.
Q, I can't wait to call you and bust you on that one.
It was quite amazing, because I remember telling Dave, I said, I don't think he called you play. And Dave said, what?
Man.
I said, I don't think he called you play. And then he scored a touchdown and won the game.
Awesome.
It was amazing, pretty amazing.
All right, Coach, running backs.
Running backs, gosh, we threw the ball so much. We had a lot of good running backs.
So you
we
had
Larry
top
Barnes. We had Larry Barnes was a good running back. Darius Hunter, he was a good runner. He was a sophomore when Larry Barnes was a junior. He was probably as good as Larry. But, since Larry was a senior, I got him together, and I told him, I said, look, man, he's a senior, and until he does something wrong, he's the man. And that's the way it remained. He was a good player. He went to Frostburg, I think, Larry did. And I think Darius is right now at Lafayette somewhere.
Okay.
He's still probably playing.
All right. What about wide receivers in Anne Arundel County? Who were the top dogs you saw out there? I know, Coach, I'm putting you on the spot. There's everywhere. Right? Go ahead.
We had a bunch of them. Alec Lemon, R.J. Harris, Tyler Washington. People don't really talk much about Tyler. Tyler Washington was a great receiver for us. We had so many of them. When you're a young coach, you think that you're good.
Right.
Until you look back and you see all these guys that are playing, and you think, man, no wonder we were so good, because we had guys like Alec Lemon. We just R.J. Harris. We just had those kind of people. So, they went up and got the ball. Tyler Young played lacrosse for Towson. He was one of our best receivers. He never saw the field at Towson. Mm-hmm. He did a lacrosse field, but he didn't play football. Excellent players, all of them were.
What about tight ends, Coach? Any standout tight end?
He never had
a tight end. I forgot you run spread. You don't have a tight end. All right. What about O linemen? You have any stud linemen there?
We had a couple. We had the Eagle brothers, Austin and Andrew Eagle. They were both captains at Shepherd, both all conference at Shepherd. When Mike Drass was there, they were really, really good players. Austin Eagle is now coaching at Arundel.
Awesome.
I think he's the offensive line coach, as a matter of fact. And I don't know what Andrew's doing right now. I know he just graduated, but he was all conference and he was a captain. We ran the outside zone against Meade because Andrew Eagle could reach anybody.
Good.
He could reach people in the first row of the stands. He was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
And I asked him one time, I said, how'd you do it? He goes, I don't know. I just do it. And he did it.
Well, Coach, hey, thanks for your 5 minutes of fame here tonight, giving us your best. Coach, I mean this when I say this. Everybody respects your opinion. Everybody knows who you are and what you've done for young men. We really appreciate it. Hang in there. Be safe and stay in touch, and I'll see you soon. All right?
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, Coach. Bye. All right. So running backs. Let's go with running backs. Who are your top two running backs?
Without a doubt, Tavon Austin.
Right.
When in doubt, give it to him. That's how it was. Toss Tavon right, seam down the middle. And then to me, he's not on the list. And I said this to you earlier. Ed Trusty, who played running back at Gilman, who's now the actual headmaster
at St. Paul School.
So Ed Trusty, I was a young buck when he was playing, and I wanted him to go on to college and play. He went to Virginia, but he didn't play football. But Ed Trusty could actually play some ball.
What about you?
I have to go with the young man Wande from Glenelg.
Wande Owens from Glenelg. Right.
He probably ran the ball more than anybody.
Log in and tell me your
continued
Facebook
to just pound people
on Facebook who you
on
like
the field.
running backs.
And I see another kid from Howard County. I have to give Zach Brown.
Zach Brown, yep.
Zach Brown, who played in the league
at linebacker, right. So he'll make the linebacker list.
He's just unbelievable young man. He won one year. He won the 100, 200 state wrestling championship all in 1 year and the football state champ. The kid is unbelievable.
Awesome. All right, so our pool here, we had 48 different running backs named, 48 different guys. We narrowed it down to the top 10 by votes. And, again, these are guys with votes. Number one vote getter was Tavon Austin, Dunbar. First-round draft pick in 2013, picked number 8 overall, played for the Rams, Cowboys, and is currently with the 49ers. Number 2 running back, Vaughn Hebron, who they talked about. You know, Vaughn went to Cardinal Gibbons High School. He was big 33 chair, went to VT, played for the Eagles and Broncos. And you got to remember, he played behind Terrell Davis. He played in all those Super Bowls, and Terrell went down a couple times. The kid was a stud. Vaughn's an Arbutus boy. He played for the Arbutus Golden Eagles. I live in Halethorpe, which is connected to Arbutus, so my connection with them is pretty good. Number 3 is Keon Lattimore, Mount St. Joe. Went to University of Maryland, was with the Cowboys. He also was with the Cowboys when HBO did the Hard Knocks, right? So everybody got to see him there. Number 4, Daytron Harris. Daytron Harris from Curly. Was with he's currently with the Saints. Deontay Harris, my fault. Deontay Harris. I'm butchering names. My fault. Right. Deontay ran all over St. Paul's in a championship game, scored tons of points.
He did it a lot of times in high school and
exactly.
college at Assumption.
Went to Assumption, killed it there. What a great football player he is. Number 5, Allie Culpepper from Dunbar, the Hall of Fame at Morgan State. Went to Syracuse, left there and went to Morgan, made it in their Hall of Fame. Archie Whatamaker from Mount St. Joe was at Robert Morris. Left Robert Morris and did not go after. Mike Campanero from River Hill got a lot of votes. Went to Wake Forest, played with the Ravens. Currently doing strength stuff in Howard County with River Hill and stuff like that. Sean Price, your boy Sean.
Maniac.
From Gilman, on the cover of our Super 22 program all those years. My man, Sean Price, went to James Madison. Great guy, played semi-pro football. He's around contributing. Great guy. Jamal Johnson, Coach Johnson. We talked about him last week. He had COVID-19. He's coaching right now at Calvert Hall. He's a running back coach at Calvert Hall. Was at St. Paul's. Played for Southside Academy. Played in the All-Star game. A funny story about him real quick was I said All-Star games, nobody can ever rush for a lot of yardage. I think he put up 150 yards in the All-Star game at St. Paul's.
He was running for like 200 a game at Southside.
Right. Mike Clay was the head coach there, you know, and Jamal was the real deal. And then the last rounding out the group, Ryan Lewis from Patterson, North Texas, and then came home. You said you knew him?
Yeah, I played with him and Willie. You know, Ryan's an awesome football player, great guy. Owns his own trucking company now. He's doing really well. So yeah, he was
awesome.
he was one of the top 2 state rushers with the guy Robert Huff, who played at Centennial.
Yep. All right. So third perspective here from the outside world. Here we have Derek Toney from Varsity Sports Network. Been around a long time. Derek's covered.
On the line?
Derek, you there? Derek.
I'm here, gentlemen. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you, Derek?
All right.
This is Derek, right?
It is beautiful because we're talking football. So it's a beautiful evening when you're talking football.
All right, you got 5 minutes of fame. Quarterbacks. Give me your 3 best quarterbacks you've seen in your lifetime. I know
I
you'll
want to hear this.
Gosh, 5 minutes. Okay. Bobby Saberhouse from McDonough. Thomas Stewart from Calvert Hall.
Thomas
and I'm
Stewart.
going to take it way, way back into the 80s, late 80s. Guy I went to school with, played at Morgan, he was probably the first dual threat quarterback I ever had a chance to see and cover. Dante Carter ended up being a wide receiver.
Dante Carter, he coached football too.
Yeah, he passed away a few years ago.
Yep. He was a coach at Gibbons at one point, right? Dante Carter?
Yeah, he coached at Gibbons.
Right.
He coached at Gibbons for 1 minute and left us too soon. Left us way too soon.
Yeah. All right, Coach, running backs. 3 running backs.
All right. I'm gonna go old school with you. Here's the no-brainers. Tavon and Vaughn Hebron. Actually, I forgot about Vaughn. I was like, you said it, like, damn, I forgot about Vaughn. But going old school, probably the best I've seen in person, Larry Washington, who played at Randallstown, went on to Maryland, and then finished at Towson.
Yeah. Anybody else? Or that's it. All right.
God.
Wide receivers. Let's go wide receivers.
Cyrus, you know what? You don't have Cyrus. We have Cyrus.
We know Cyrus was a DB at Alabama, and he's playing in the league as DB and all that. So we kind of knew he's going to make the defensive side for next week's podcast. So we'll have you on next week again to tell us. So go ahead. Where are we at?
Wide receivers.
Yeah, that's a good list there you guys got. Where are we going to now?
Wide receivers. Who are you picking besides Cyrus? You said Cyrus Jones. Anybody else you got for wide receivers that you remember?
Cyrus, I got Darius Hayward Bay, played at McDonough. Was a first-round draft pick out of Maryland. Played in the league for 10 years, and somebody more recent, Stephen Smothers from Franklin.
Yeah, there we go. Good job. All right, good deal. Yeah, Stephen Smothers is at Stevenson University right now. I don't know if people know that. Division III Stevenson.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a
Fall from
that's a
grace.
big time talent that Coach
Yep.
Otto has.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's excited as crap about, or excited as I can't. What I say? Excited as hell about that. All right, move right to tight ends. Give me some tight ends you seen.
Well, when I was going back and forth, I came down to two, and they're both Gilman guys. More recent, Thomas Booker, who's now a DN
Right.
at
Stanford.
Stanford, and taking it kind of way, way, way back into the 80s. I know I'm probably losing the what's the demographic, the
Luster.
17 to 30 crowd, but Leon Newsom.
Leon
who was,
Newsom,
class-
right? I've heard that name,
Leon
Coach.
Newsom.
Yep, I've heard that. He was
Yeah.
really good at Gilman.
Yeah.
Yep. He was there when Biff was there, correct?
Yep. He's probably one of what. Biff was an assistant then, and
Right.
I
Sherman
think he went
was the head
Ivy
coach.
League.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, I think he went Ivy League, and now I think he is maybe retired now, but I know he's been in the Secret Service for many years.
All right, Coach. O-line rounded out. Who we got for O-line? Remember any of those guys you interviewed?
Okay, got several kids here. I mean, this is a tough list. This is tough. Greg Pike from BL.
Right. Yes. Georgia.
Patrick Allen
Right.
from Franklin.
Yeah, Patrick
Who
Allen.
was at at Georgia? I think
Yeah,
he's at
he graduated from Southeastern
school.
Louisiana just recently.
Southeastern. Yep. Donovan Smith from Owens Mills, who only played for 1 year, but went on to Penn State and now is
Tampa Bay.
blocking the guy named Tom Brady.
Right. All right.
DeVry Hamilton from Gilman, who's I think he's at Northwestern now. Started at Stanford. Now he's at Northwestern. Of course, Jordan McNair from McDonough. And another Gilman kid. Biff had all these big men. His lines were just incredible. Steven Spagnalis, I hope I pronounced his name right, who played at Virginia.
Right. No, Steven went to Michigan, didn't he?
He went to. He may have committed to. I think he committed to Virginia, but I think switching over to Michigan.
Yeah, he went to Michigan because I was looking him up today, and I think now he's in his 5th year at I want to say Vanderbilt. I think he's at Vandy right now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, Derek, again, thanks for all you're doing covering this. I'm glad we're talking football. We're going to have you on again next week to talk defense. I'll text you about the defense. All right, brother?
And then podcast 9, we're going to
No
do the
problem,
all-time
man.
coaches.
You guys take care.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks,
Derek.
Talk to you.
All right, guys, moving right along. Wide receivers. So again, our poll, there was 36 different wide receivers named. 36 of them. We narrowed it down to the most vote getters. Brian Johnson from City. Went to Penn State, played for the Cardinals, played in the Super Bowl. Phenomenal guy, came back, does camps here in Maryland with Reggie and a bunch of the guys I know, and I've met him a couple times. Number 2 was J.J. Outlaw. Went to Villanova, played for the Eagles. And then I was just told today he's assistant basketball coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he ranks number 8 in the state for receptions. He had 28.39 is what he was receiving yards, which is phenomenal. Number 3 was Scooter Monroe at John Carroll. Went to University of Maryland. Had a little brief thing with the Eagles. Then we have Darius Hayward-Bay at McDonough. Went to University of Maryland.
First-round draft pick.
Yeah, first-round draft pick. What's great about, I know he's not playing in the league now, I believe, but very active in the McDonough community, donated money so they could put lights on their campus. Was passionate about his high school career, which is great. Terrell Lowry from Lake Clifton, was one of the all-time leading receivers in Baltimore City, number 3rd in the state with 3,366 yards catching, which is phenomenal. Billy Gaines from Urbana made the list. Went to Pitt University and tragically passed away while he was at Pitt. Incredible slot guy, kind of like a Mike Campanaro if you never saw him play. His best friend was Eric Lentz, who was a DN, which was phenomenal. Great kid. Then we have Alex Lemon from Arundel, went to Syracuse, is now the head coach at Glen Burnie. Welcome him to the BTC. Phenomenal guy. Adrian Coxon at City, went to Florida and then transferred to Stony Brook. He made the list. B.J. Farrell, who coached in, I don't know if Coach Markowitz mentioned him, but again, he is 13 on the list in the state of Maryland. He's 5th all-time with 50 touchdowns. Again, he caught the ball and had 2,285 yards. Joe Abel from Lake Clifton, that was a name you brought up. He got several votes, was all-time, made the Hall of Fame at Wesley University. Phenomenal. And then up the list was our all-decade player for the BTC and our last team, Steve Suter, North Carroll High School, went to University of Maryland, and made it with the Redskins a little bit. Again, that rounds that group out. Next on the line, we have Sean Murphy from North Carolina, and the reason why we have Sean on is Sean's been at Curley and in Baltimore for a long time. Sean, are you there? Sean.
I'm there. I'm here.
All right, brother. 5 minutes of fame. I know, so you can't gotta be quick. 5 minutes. Top
Coach,
right.
quick.
top 3 quarterbacks. Who we got?
I've got top 2. My top 2 are Thomas Stewart from Calvert Hall. Outstanding quarterback, tough nose, great arm. Went on to play at Boise State and then finished up at Duquesne. Outstanding player. And then I got to go with Kurt Rawlings. Again, one of the best I've seen. Went on to have a great career at Yale.
So wait a minute, hold on, Coach. So how did you get out to watch quarterbacks when you run double wing and the quarterback never throws the ball? All right, moving on. Running backs, go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
So running backs, I love the kid from I'm drawing a blank. The kid from Pilate who went to St. Francis and now going to Michigan.
Blake Corum. Blake, right?
Blake Corum, fast, great hands. He can protect and pass protection. Big fan of his, and of course I got to go with my guy Deontay Harris, who's pretty special. Those are 2 of the backs that.
So you got to skip over wide receivers, right, Coach? Because y'all didn't have any.
No, talking about scouting. We're talking scouting. He's been out and seen everybody. All right, wide receivers, Coach. Who do we got?
I like Hayward Bay, definitely. We played against him, and when he was over at McDonough, he could stretch the field. Great hands, unbelievable speed. And then I love the Suter kid from up at North Carroll. Unbelievable. We scrimmaged him, and he was a man among boys. One of the best I've ever seen.
Tight ends, Coach.
Tight end, I like the kid from Perry Halls.
I know you're talking went to Maryland. Right, went to Maryland.
Yeah, that wound up going to Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
He was really again quality. Could play, could actually play receiver, but he was just a really good player. Great hands, ran good routes, and was a stud during his time at Perry Hall. The other kid I actually liked, I know I don't know if anybody mentioned him, but I liked. I believe Stan White's son played some tight end when he was over at Gilman, and I liked him because he's just a physical blocker.
Okay, O-line, Coach. You had plenty of O-linemen. What we got?
All right, I got Pike from Boys Latin. Went on to Georgia. I think he was an All-American. Great player, physical, athletic. He also played lacrosse as an attackman. You don't see too many 6'5" attackmen.
The BL St. Paul's game, he was the fullback.
Yeah, he could do a lot of things. I mean, he was talented. And then I liked the kid from Meade. I think it was Jake Hawk, who went on to Navy and was really a good player for them as well. And we actually scrimmaged Meade when Jake was playing, and he was a stud.
Awesome. Coach, what's your record down there? 4-1 now?
4-1.
Keep it rolling.
We're gonna keep it going.
Keep it going.
So far, so good.
Hey,
so thanks for having me,
guys.
Hey,
make sure you keep televising. I'm telling coaches to watch it because Maryland needs to go 8-man football.
Yes. We'll do.
All right,
thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Murph, see you. All right, again, now we're moving to tight ends. So, coaches, we're going to do our thing. We had 10 tight ends, which is pretty. Number 1 was Thomas Booker Gilman. He's at Stanford, defensive end, killing it, tackling people. Number 2 was Robert Abamari, Victor's brother. Played with the Ravens for a short stint. Number 3 was Jason Good. Jason from Woodlawn. Went to University of Maryland a little bit with the Skins, right?
Yeah,
he was with
started off at Curley, though. With
Shout out to Jason. You the man, right? Miss you guy. Next one, Melvin Elise, Calvert Hall.
The number 1 defensive end in the country his senior year.
Right, and he was at Randallstown. He went from Calvert Hall to Randallstown. Then Stan White Jr., again, like Murph said, I watched Stan White play. He could kick people out. He could block. I mean, that kid was a great football player, and you saw what he did at Ohio State, went to the championships numerous times. I mean, what a great character kid that is and football player. Henry Poggi made this list. He got a lot of votes, too. Biff's son. Went to Michigan, great football player. I grew up around him. He's a great kid. And then we got Kevin Armstrong from Poly, went to Temple and had a brief thing with the Eagles. So again, that's our tight ends. All right, and Coach, you got so you mentioned yours. All right, let's before we bring Sheldon on. Sheldon's the next one. All right, let's go O-line. So my O-line again, or who's your top 2 O-linemen, 3 O-linemen?
I would say Jason Murphy. That's about it for me.
That's a bit of O-line. You got it.
All right, I would say Donovan Smith. I coached against him when I was at Pikesville. Hell of a player. I also got to go with the 2 Glenelg kids, the Robbins kids that ended up at Florida State,
right?
And then the kid that's up at Syracuse that's from Glenelg.
Okay.
Can't think of
drawing
the
a blank.
Yeah.
You'll remember it. All right, good deal. So, guys, again, 53 different guys were sent in via email and via Facebook for Elwood's thing. 53 different names over the last 50 years. Here's what we got, and then we'll have Sheldon Sheeler on who will give us who, and he knows the state. Jason Murphy was number 1. Virginia Tech played for the Titans. Coach high school football around here. Dan Randolph, Wild Lake. Dane Randolph, Wild Lake. University of Maryland, was with the Washington team at one point. Chris Bassler from Westminster. Story about him: he broke his hand in our BTC All-Star game. Went to West Virginia. Now he's the head coach at Westminster. Great young man. Lou Lombardo, Calvert Hall, went to University of Maryland. Played with the Colts. Joe Seslick from Severn went to Wake Forest and decided to go in the business world, just like Ambrose Wood, and brilliant guy. He's doing a great job. Joe Akers from Hereford. Remember Joe? Joe, when the UConn injury sidelined him, wound up becoming a coach. Great young man. Jordan McNair from McDonough went to University of Maryland. Everybody knows his story. What a great young man he was. Robert Heverstein from Liganor. You know, Rick calls all the time, and everybody sees him all the time because the Rams were in the Super Bowl, went to Wisconsin. I think he's been in the league now about 10 years. What a great character for the Liganor guy he is. Donovan Smith, Owings Mills, went to Penn State, now is Tampa Bay, blocking for them.
Only won 2 games in high school, according to Jamie.
Correct, right, at Owings Mills. Blake Henry from Loyola. Shout out to Blake Henry.
Shout out Blake.
Blake went to Wake Forest, tried out for the Colts, head coach at Potomac down in Virginia, and also coached at Loyola. Glenn McIntyre, Cardinal Gibbons High School, big offensive line kid, was a scholar athlete, went to Maryland, and he's a police officer.
Mount St. Joe, Coach.
No, he's a cop down in Ocean City at this time. And then we have Brian Gaia from Gilman.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
Brian Gaia from Gilman went to Penn State, drafted by the Browns. He's not on a professional team, but again, he stayed at Penn State, was their captain after the Joe Paterno fiasco, was all Big Ten honors. Justin Falcinelli from Middletown, everybody knows his story, went to Clemson.
Started 3 of the 4 years.
Yep, as center, was always in the national championship games. He's trying his way through NFL right now, but he has some issues with injuries. So again, that rounds our list out. So now we're going to go to the expert, Sheldon Sheeler. Sheldon, are you there?
Hey, Scott. Nice to join you guys.
All right, so we're giving you carte blanche. I mean, you could pick anybody.
Oh, no.
You could pick anybody in the state of Maryland because we want the people here in the Baltimore metro area to know, because we always have an argument. We had a coach from Wise on our podcast one day, and we talked about the kids down in PG County. We have arguments about whether the Baltimore teams are better than the PG County teams. Example, Calvert Hall plays Wise. You know, we play the teams down there. So we have arguments all the time. So we're going to let you open up. Tell us the best 3 quarterbacks you've seen in your lifetime in the state of Maryland.
Okay, so and I think the qualifier here is I needed to see them. So everybody I'm going to list for you, I saw in person, with the exception of one player, and that's going to be a wild card at the end for you. That just kind of will be a conversation starter.
Okay.
But the quarterbacks, I absolutely loved Chris Kelly from Seneca Valley. Chris. 39-0 as a varsity football player. Started as a linebacker his sophomore year for Seneca Valley. Back-to-back quarterbacking state championships for Seneca Valley. Just a big-time gamer. Loved watching him play. And I think the most athletic and probably the most fun quarterback I ever saw was Joe Hayden out of Friendly.
Yeah.
Because if his receivers weren't there, he would do something special with the ball. And then another one who I really enjoyed watching was Deontay Twyman out of Sherwood. Okay. And another kid who really threw it around, big numbers, big results. A little smaller, not quite the prospect of some of the other players, but incredibly effective.
All right, Coach, running backs. What do you say for that?
Oh, without a doubt, Tavon Austin. He's my number one, far and away. If I had a fantasy league, I'd pick him number one every year. outside of that, the running backs are really interesting because, I would probably a guy who really flew under the radar because of his location in the state was probably Ben Tate, who ended up in the NFL for a little while. Ben Tate was just a beast of a football player. At that point, my number 3, pretty tight call between either Marcus Mason at Georgetown Prep, who had a little cup of coffee with that team in D.C., and Jake Funk, who had an amazing senior year with Damascus.
Yeah, he scored like 7
went on to
touchdowns
Maryland.
in the state championship game.
Is he still at Maryland right now? Was he a senior? 5th year senior. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Coach. Wide receivers. What do we got there?
My number 1, Stephon Diggs. He was just so smooth, and just the game was effortless to him. And watching him play at good counsel, it was clear he was just on another level on a team that was full of next level players. And moving away from Stephon, a kid who was probably the fastest kid I ever saw in person, although Darius Hayward-Bay was up there too, Derek Williams out of Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay.
Derek ended up with the Lions for a little bit in the NFL. I really liked earlier in my journalism career, Brian Johnson out of City.
Yep, we talked.
But then
about
you had, some real wild cards with like Billy Gaines, Kenny Tate, and Kendall Fuller, who would make a short list for me.
Right. All right, Coach. Tight ends.
Tight ends. This is going to be my wild card because this is the one guy on my list who I did not actually see play high school football. But I've seen video of him, and I obviously watched him in the NFL. And the funny twist on this, it's Chuck Foreman from Frederick High.
Okay.
Everyone remembers him as the big running back for the Minnesota Vikings. He actually was a tight end in high school because Frederick High had another running back who ended up in the NFL too.
Wow.
So yeah, people don't realize that that's why he was such a good receiving running back in his pro days, was because he had some hands that got utilized as a high school football player.
Anybody else, or are we moving on to O-line?
Moving over to the O-line, Rob Havenstein, you brought him up, Liganor guy. He was a college first-team All-American. We don't get too many of those out of the state of Maryland. Has had a great NFL career, been in a Super Bowl already. I think one guy who I think was really important to Maryland high school football was Ari Quanjo from DeMatha. Because Ari, after being a star and a multi-time All-State performer at DeMatha, went to Alabama, and he and his younger brother Cyrus had a great career down at Alabama. And I felt with them going down to Alabama kind of broke the mold. And we started to see more DMV kids matriculating to, SEC or deep ACC schools. We started to see, Ricky Leonard at Florida State. We started to see Ego Ferguson at LSU, more Alabama players, coming out of the Baltimore area. It just sort of, Ari's success, I think, down in Alabama started making people in the SEC take more notice of players in this region.
All right. Is that it? That's who you got? Yeah. All right. Hey, Sheldon, can we have you on next week to wrap up our show again? We're going to cover defense, so you got to come up.
All right.
Special teams and defense.
Yeah, we'll do
it'll
it.
Be D ends, D linemen, linebackers, and DBs. So we'll finish up with you next week.
Sounds great.
Hey, one quick question. Do you still have your webpage up where everybody can go on and see all the stats and who's the top people in the state?
Yeah, I need to do some updating on it because we're trying to change servers and pull things up and take advantage of the downtime COVID has given us.
Right.
So it's still a work in progress, but mdprepfootball.com, I have a lot of it's basically it's not player ratings or recruiting stuff. It's more about the history and records from the high school scene in Maryland.
Well, Sheldon, we really appreciate you.
Yeah, you got to update that site, Coach, because you're missing my 2 state championship appearances at Douglas.
Well,
yeah, but Sheldon, hold on. In his defense, the problem is when you list him, he's got like 10 different schools. You know what I'm saying? So like the joke around Baltimore is, where's Elwood? Where's Elwood?
Yeah.
Where's Fido?
Yeah.
Where's Fido? Nobody knows.
Don't agree
right.
with him, Sheldon.
All right. Hey, Sheldon, thanks. We'll talk to you next week, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys.
All right,
take care. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So, hey, we wrapped it up, man. What a great show. We covered the offense. We will be doing defense at the next podcast. So when Elwood sends his Facebook request out and says, who are the best defensive ends? Please just send defensive ends, nobody else. When he asks you who are the best linebackers, please just send the linebackers. We don't want your opinion on who the best is ever because we're sifting through all that
Well,
information.
from the week that we just had, man, I can tell you who the best defensive end is. The dude Melvin Elise. That's
Right. Well, anyhow, so again, cast your votes on Elwood's on Facebook page, and again, we're sponsored by Under Armour, who takes care of us with our Big 33 and our All-Star games. Sponsored by Rich Hausler, the best realtor in the state of Maryland. You want to sell a house, buy a house? That's a guy you want to call. Call us. We'll get the number for you. And DePaula's. On their basement right here. Oh, my fault. On my house. Next week we'll be at the Paula's. Again, what a great show. Jamie, thanks for guesting with us.
Thanks for
Big
having
Reg
me.
will be back next week. You guys, as Elwood
As
always says.
shout out to the competition.
Shout out to the competition. Doesn't know what school we'll be at next week, so who cares
Stay
about the
tuned.
competition? Stay tuned.
No feast in the building.
We are out.